If you don't eat Pringles with Nutella, grow up. But hey, this is Vaibhav. Welcome to Academia, and we are looking at the MCQs by Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach. So the paper pattern for ICSC and ISC has changed, which is why the MCQs also constitute as integral a part of your question paper as the long answers. So you need to practice them. Now, what we'll do in this video is that we will be going through the MCQs that I have framed myself. I will be reading aloud the questions and the options. You can pause the video for a second, think over the answer, and then tally with mine as I read that also aloud. So without any delay, let's start it. So the first is Matthew Arnold was a dash poet. Elizabethan, Victorian, modern, none. Matthew Arnold was a dash poet. Elizabethan, Victorian, none. He was a Victorian poet, of course. Dover Beach is an example of dash. Dover Beach is an example of dash. Eulogy, elegy, ballad, dramatic monologue. Is it a eulogy or an elegy or a ballad or a dramatic monologue? It's a dramatic monologue, of course. The moon gleams and goes from dash. The moon gleams and goes from dash. The English coast, Dover coast, French coast, all of the above. English coast, Dover coast, French coast, all of the above. Of course, the French coast. High Strand here refers to Strait of Dover, House of Arnold, Shore, all of the above. Strait of Dover, House of Arnold, Shore, all of the above. High Strand. Of course, in the literary explanation video, I've told you, High Strand refers to the shore, the seashore that is there. So the third option. The note of sound, which is brought by the pebbles, is transient, ephemeral, loud, eternal. Transient, ephemeral, loud, eternal. It is, of course, eternal. They bring the eternal note of sadness in. What kind of a note is brought about? Eternal note of sadness, right? The cliffs of England are glimmering and vast. This implies to there is still some faith left in England. The cliffs are made of chalk, thus are prone to erosion. Neither A nor B, both A and B. The cliffs of England stand glimmering and vast implies to the fact that there is still some faith and hope left in England. The cliffs are made of chalk, which is why they are prone to erosion. Neither A nor B, both A and B. Of course, the option is the last one. The correct option is the last one, both A and B, because there are two perceptions according to the critics, which is the first option and the second option. So you'll have to read all the options carefully. You can have some confusing ones. In which play of Sophocles is the turbid ebb and flow mentioned? In which play of Sophocles is the turbid ebb and flow mentioned? Electra, Oedipus at Colonus, Antigone, Ajax. Electra, Oedipus at Colonus, Antigone, Ajax. In the third option, which is Antigone, there is the mention of turbid ebb and flow of human misery. The second stanza of Dover Beach is an example of dash. The second stanza of Dover Beach, recall the second stanza and then tell me whether it is an example of an allegory or a reference or a motif or an allusion. Allegory, reference, motif, allusion. Second stanza, where they have mentioned about Sophocles. That is an example of allusion, of course. Why is there an eternal note of sadness? Why is there an eternal note of sadness? Because of the death of a beloved person, because of the passing of the century, because of loss of faith on God, because of loss of optimism. I repeat, because of the death of a beloved, because of the passing of century, because of loss of faith on God, because of optimism. Question is, why is there an eternal note of sadness? Of course, the third option is correct, which is because of loss of faith in God and religion. Moving on. On the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand glimmering and vast. Which poetic device is used over here? I repeat the lines. On the French coast, the moonlight gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand glimmering and vast. Which poetic device is used here? Is it an anaphora or auditory imagery or simile or visual imagery? Anaphora, auditory imagery, simile, visual imagery. The answer is the last one, which is visual imagery. Sophocles was sitting on the coast of, Sophocles, the Greek tragic writer, was sitting on the coast of English Channel, North Sea, Aegean, Strait of Dover. English Channel, North Sea, Aegean or Strait of Dover. Of course, Aegean. Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean, right? So he was sitting on the coast of Aegean Sea. Which figure of speech is used in the Sea of Faith? In the phrase Sea of Faith, which figure of speech is used? Now, without even looking at the options, we can simply say that this is a metaphor. But still, the options are Enjambment, anaphora, metaphor, simile. The answer is metaphor. Okay, the sea of faith. What is the sea being compared to? What is the sea being compared to? Faith in love, faith in friendship, faith in God, or all of the above? The sea is compared to faith in love, faith in God, faith in friendship, all of the above. Of course, faith in God. Sophocles was a Greek writer of romance, comedy, tragedy, thrill. Romance, comedy, tragedy, thrill. Sophocles was a writer of tragedy. He was a Greek tragic writer. Lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. Which figure of speech is used in this line? Lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. The options are simile, alliteration, metaphor, A and B. The last option is option A plus option B. Simile, alliteration, metaphor, or both A and B. So the last option, which is both A and B, is correct, because lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled, the l sound is being repeated, which is why alliteration, and lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled, which is why a simile also. Alright. Now, had this question been twisted in a way whereby they would have given the options as a simile, alliteration, metaphor, and let's say another figure of speech, assonance. Okay. Now you do not have the option of both A and B. Now which to go with, whether alliteration or simile. In that case, the most prominent figure of speech will be chosen, which is simile. Simile over here is more important than alliteration because the use of like is there while comparing two objects, right? So that thing you will have to keep in mind. The sea of faith being round the earth can be interpreted as, the sea of faith being round the earth can be interpreted as, there was no land once upon a time. Once upon a time, all humans had faith in God. Faith and religion covered all areas and aspects of society, both B and C. I repeat the options. By the way, the question is that the sea of faith being round the earth is an implication to there was no land once upon a time. Once upon a time, all humans had faith in God. Faith and religion covered all areas and aspects of society, both B and C. The last option is both B and C. Of course, the correct answer is both B and C, right? Melancholy long withdrawing roar. Which poetic device is used here? In the phrase, melancholy long withdrawing roar. Onomatopoeia, visual imagery, tactile imagery, auditory imagery. Onomatopoeia, visual imagery, tactile imagery, auditory imagery. The option is the last one, which is the correct, which is auditory imagery. Moving on. Naked shingles here refer to, chains used to tie the criminals, uncovered sea beaches, dry rocks and pebbles, all of the above. Chains used to tie the criminals, uncovered sea beaches, dry rocks and pebbles, all of the above. The third option is the correct one. This naked shingles is an implication to the dry rocks, right? Once the sea of faith has retreated, right, with the night wind, what will be left? The dreary edges and the naked shingles of the world, which is why this option. Lie before us like a land of dreams. Which poetic device is used over here? Lie before us like a land of dreams. Alliteration, simile, pathetic fallacy, A and B. Haven't done this question? Oh no, I haven't. Lie before us like a land of dreams. Which figure of speech? Alliteration, simile, pathetic fallacy, or both A and B? Both A and B. Because lie before us like a land of dreams, l sound, which is why alliteration, and lie before us like a land of dreams, which is why a simile. Therefore, both A and B. Then again, if you have been given the last option as any other figure of speech, let's say metaphor, then which figure of speech to go with? Which option to go with? Simile. Because more important than alliteration over here is the figure of speech, which is simile. So keep that in mind. Although they will not do so, they will not give you misleading options, but then we need to be prepared with the worst case scenario as well. Sea of faith refers to, moving on, sea of faith refers to agent, love, strong faith, religion. Agent, love, strong faith, religion. The answer is, of course, strong faith. The sea of faith, the strong faith in God. What is the last hope amidst all the gloom and chaos according to the speaker? According to the speaker of Matthew Arnold, what is the last hope that a person can cling to amongst all that gloom and chaos? Humanity, religious ceremonies, true love, or church rites? Humanity, religious ceremonies, true love, church rites. Of course, the answer is true loves, because the speaker says, "Our love, let us be true to one another." Love as the last solace, that is the theme as well. So yes. Meaning of certitude in the poem is, employment, security, certainty, and gratitude. I repeat, employment, security, certainty, gratitude. I told you in the literary explanation video that neither love nor joy nor certitude. Certitude means certainty. So the option is that. Which of the following is not a prominent theme of the poem? Which of the following is not, pay attention to these nitty-gritties, is a theme of the poem, is not a theme of the poem? These can basically land you in trouble at times. So the options are, which of the following is not a theme of the poem? Loss of faith on God, love as the last solace, death and devastation, Victorian crisis of faith. I repeat, loss of faith on God, love as the last solace, death and destruction, Victorian crisis of faith. Of course, the third option, which is death and devastation. That is not a theme of the poem Dover Beach. Now, they can also put up questions asking you to complete the lines. So you need to be actually well versed with the poem. I'm not asking you to memorize the entire poem, to cram the poem, because of course, poems like Dover Beach or poems like Birches, these are very long poems. And it's quite of a task to memorize these poems when you have other things to cater to. So you need to actually go through these poems time and again, so that you have, a grip over the syntax and the text, a nice firm command you have over the text. Don't memorize them, just go through them every day or every once in a while and you will be good to go. So which is why I have brought these two questions here. Complete the lines, and here we are on dash, and here we are on dash, a darkling plane, in a darkling plane, as on a darkling plane, as in a darkling plane. And here we are dash, on a darkling plane, in a darkling plane, as on a darkling plane, as in a darkling plane. Refer to the text. The third option is correct. And here we are as on a darkling plane. The board can confuse you with these questions. Again, complete the lines. It brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. It brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery, comma, V dash. V dash, options are also find in the sound a thought, find in the sound a thought, find also in the sound a thought, to find in the sound a thought. I repeat the options. Also find in the sound a thought, that is we also find in the sound a thought, we find in the sound a thought, we find also in the sound a thought, we too find in the sound a thought. Comment the answer down below. Refer to the text, comment the answer down below. We'll see that. How would you describe the overall tone of the poem Dover Beach? How would you describe the overall tone of the poem Dover Beach? Depressed, pessimistic, hopeful, disoriented. Depressed, pessimistic, hopeful, disorientated. Of course, the tone of the poem is pessimistic. Which of the following imageries are included in Dover Beach? Which of the following imageries are included in the entire poem Dover Beach? Sunset, evening star, spectre grey, moonlight. Is there a mention of sunset? Or is there a mention of evening star? Or a mention of spectre grey or moonlight? There is only the mention of moonlight out of these options. Sunset is from Crossing the Bar, evening star again from Crossing the Bar, spectre grey frost is from the Darkling Thrush, but moonlight is from Dover Beach. The last question, confused alarms of struggle and flight. Which figure of speech, or rather which poetic device is used over here? Confused alarms of struggle and flight. Auditory imagery, visual imagery, metonym, all of the above. Whether we have an auditory imagery or a visual imagery or a metonym or all of the above. The question is confused alarms of struggle and flight. Of course, the option A, which is auditory imagery, is the correct one. As for that question, whereby you had to complete the lines, look up for the answer, go through the poem, comment it down below, and then we'll see which one gets the right answer. For this video, we have completed 29 or 28 MCQs. These are sufficient as one of the resource that I provide to you. You can look up for other resources as well if you want to, but these cover the entire poem. various aspects. I haven't covered MCQs which are very superficial in nature, which you can get by just looking at the text as well, asking you to fill in the blank or something like that, or a very basic symbolism. I haven't covered that. I have covered those MCQs which can kind of mislead you. They can mislead you into confusion so that you have a better understanding of the text using my MCQs and my notes. I'll see you guys in the next video. I will come up with a video again of MCQs. Until then, goodbye, take care, keep studying, bye bye.